Joining me in studio is a financial advisor, Mduduzi Luthuli from Luthuli Capital, and to extend the conversation from Mabala Noise manager or label manager, Thobela Dlamini. To both of you, thanks so much for joining us in our discussion, the business of music. I mean, you just have to look at the Forbes list in terms of the wealthiest celebrities around the world, and South Africa's gradually getting there with the new artists. But do you think that our appreciation of our artists, Thobela, translates into their pockets?
It's just now that it has happened. Previously, it wasn't. It wasn't because of the fact that fame got into the front desk, and money issue was like not being attended to properly. So at the end of the day, in terms of them making money, for me, it was not. They will make it, but they wouldn't know how to spend it. So the financial management aspect was never there.
Yeah.
Which now it's unfolding. As people like us come into the picture more and more with our vast experience, we're trying to make sure that all that is being done properly.
Yeah, and I think this is exactly what our business editor was talking about in building sustainable businesses that have, all the processes in place to ensure that you can pass it on to the next generation. So the difference between going independent and going under a structured and established label is one that needs to be carefully thought through. Yeah, literally. So, when you decide to go it alone as an artist, what kind of pitfalls could there potentially be?
I think this is a much broader subject because financial management is a skill. And we as human beings always default to our most comfortable situation, meaning if you don't have the skills, number one, to manage money, to create money, to pass on money, you'll always suffer from what's commonly known sudden wealth syndrome or Lotto syndrome. I could give you 30 million, 40 million, 50 million, but if you don't have the skills to manage that, you will always default to what you know. I think the problem in this country is we're still in a country where someone can leave matric never being taught the difference between a credit card or a debit card, never being taught how do you apply for a bank loan, what is the difference between saving and investing. Those sort of things are not addressed. You leave high school, you know photosynthesis, but no financial management. How then are you expected to go into the world and conduct yourself in a manner that, number one, creates wealth, number two, maintains that wealth, and number three, passes on that wealth? I always say to my clients coming to me, I can show you how to be financially independent. It's very simple. I can show you how to make your kids rich and your grandchildren wealthy, because wealth is generational. Those things can be taught, but if there's no grassroots, if there's nothing to work with, how do you expect people to get out of that? And you see us now in a society where expenses grow quicker than your income. Then how does a person juggle that and not sink into debt?
Yeah, but I mean, if we even were to compare with the international standards, I guess if Africa was a market as the US is, with their 52 states, we would be able to produce more millionaires or wealthy musicians. And I mean, we celebrate selling platinum as if that is something that you can pass on to your kids. What are the difficulties when it comes to artists being appreciated for their talent?
I think the difficulty, number one, we need to face the facts. In our own country, we tend not to appreciate our own artists as consumers. From a consumer point of view, you'll always find a situation whereby somebody prefers an international act than a local act. Now, the ideology here is that we need to start moving to a point whereby we change mindset first. How we change mindset, this issue of proudly South African, it needs to be an issue that needs to be driven far more harder than we are doing now. Where we want to make it a point that when an artist releases an album, for argument's sake, we need to make sure that the content from that album, the beats from the album, it speaks a relevant language to somebody staying in Diepsloot, somebody staying in Midrand. It mustn't separate the two, but it must make the two to be one. Now, in terms of doing that, our task, specifically as Mabala knows, is that before we take out anything out, we have to make it a point that there's a certain standard that you as an artist need to give us before we can say this must go to the market. You must be in a space whereby you gauge the standard of the music.
Yeah, but I mean, it's difficult to negotiate when you don't own your own master or material. You will be perpetually indebted to the record label. Who controls the IPO?
I think it's not that difficult to negotiate. Currently, it's not. I'll tell you what I'm saying. Then it was because you'll find people like he just said who are desperate. They just left matric. They just did it. Today, you are talking about artists who have degrees, artists who are coming from financial viable families. Those artists, when they sit in and do a proper bargaining with us, you'll hear that this person is sound. So it doesn't lie with us having to just decide, but we look at the caliber of a person that we want to rope in and sit down and do a DNA for that particular person. From that particular point, then you'll then say, this is the kind of person that we want to work with based on these particular attributes that this particular person has. Because they bring in their own needs and say, I don't want 13%, it's an old school. Now I want 20%, 25%. You give them as per what they're going to bring back to the table. It's not like before when it's a give and take. Those days are gone.
Yeah, but around the education, financial literacy, what is it that artists ought to look out for when it comes to sustaining their money?
I think, like I said, financial management is a skill. You know, I can't walk in here and do your job because you've been taught how to do. There's things that you know about the industry that I'll never know. It's the same thing with financial management. You know, you're saying you're working with artists now that have degrees. I'll even compare that to just any normal job. Say someone leaves university, they now have bargaining power to say, listen, I've got to honors, you got to pay me this salary. But I meet professionals who've been working for years, decades, who still have nothing saved because that's not their speciality. That's why you need to consult with a financial advisor. Typically what you see out there is someone earns an income, tax is deducted from that, it goes into your bank account, and from there the money flows into expenses, paying for bills, you know? Whereas the difference between us and someone who's wealthy is using that same money from the bank account to buy assets that will pay you back in income. Until you have such a passive income that's what you're supposed to live on. Don't be dependent on one income. Buy assets that grow your wealth. Know how to structure your assets so that it's beneficial for you tax-wise, and know how to pass it on, because that's still a very big problem here. How many times do you see a family in your street when the parents were alive, they had a very successful business, the parents pass away, 2-3 years down the line, the kids are poor, but they inherited millions.
Yeah, gentlemen, we'll have to continue this discussion another time, but thanks indeed for your insight. That's a music, or rather financial advisor, Mduduzi Luthuli from Luthuli Capital. We're also joined by Mabala Noise label manager, Thobela Dlamini. For now, though, we took a quick ad break. We'll see you shortly.